is a power within you that no external force, nor authority, and no manipulation can take from you unless you willingly hand it over. This power is not a loud, theatrical force that seeks to dominate. It is a quiet fire that burns deep in the unconscious, beyond the reach of those who would seek to control you. It is the sacred core of your psyche, the self that stands before the face of eternity, the self that knows the language of the soul and whispers truths that the surface of life cannot hear. And yet, how often do we betray this inner authority? Because we fear rejection, fear judgment, or fear being cast out from the collective. We imagine that if we conform to the expectations of others, if we obey the invisible rules of society, we will find safety. But in truth, each time you surrender your authentic voice, each time you mask your true feelings, you are placing your power into the hands of those who will never understand its worth. Power is a strange thing. It does not exist in the outer world unless it is first born from within. The tyrant, the manipulator, the one who seeks to control is never truly powerful. They are only borrowing power from those who are unaware of their own strengths. When you see someone trying to dominate you, remember this: their control can only exist in proportion to your unconsciousness. The moment you awaken to the fact that your value is not given by them, but arises from your own relationship with the self, the deeper self that connects you to the archetypal realm, they lose their hold. Control collapses like a shadow vanishing in sunlight. The path to keeping your power is not a path of aggression or revenge, but a path of deep self-realization. You must descend into the underworld of your own psyche, into the darkness, where your fears and forgotten wounds dwell, and face them without flinching. Those who seek to control you thrive on your unacknowledged fears. They sense your insecurities, like wolves scenting blood, and they press against them, manipulating you through guilt, through shame, through the false narrative that you are not enough unless you follow their script. But you are not here to play their script. You are here to write your own myth. Let us speak of myths for a moment. Each of us is born into a collective narrative family, culture, religion, history. These stories shape our early sense of who we are, but they are not the whole truth. Somewhere within each story lies a point of tension, a shadowed corner where we are asked to awaken to our individuality, to separate from the collective dream and become conscious beings. This is where power is forged, in the struggle to become who you truly are rather than what others want you to be. When you choose to step out of the collective pattern, you will encounter resistance. People will try to control you, not because they are evil, but because your independence threatens their illusion of safety. Your authenticity reminds them of the freedom they have not claimed for themselves, and so they project their fear onto you, seeking to bind you back into the familiar cage, to remain powerful. You must understand projection. It is one of the most potent forces in human relationships. People do not see you as you are. They see the parts of themselves they have disowned. The manipulator often projects weakness onto you, trying to convince you that you are dependent or inadequate, because they are terrified of facing their own inadequacy. The tyrant projects chaos onto you, making you feel as if you cannot survive without their control, because they themselves are terrified of their inner chaos. Once you see this, once you realize that their judgments are nothing more than their own shadows thrown upon your skin, you can step back, you can breathe, you can reclaim the energy you had unknowingly given them. But seeing projection is only the first step. The deeper step is to withdraw your own projections. We all project our unclaimed power, our repressed instincts, our forgotten desires onto others. You may unconsciously believe that someone else holds the key to your freedom, that their approval or love will complete you. This is the beginning of your enslavement. The moment you recognize that what you seek in them is actually buried within you, you begin to call your power home. It is like gathering scattered pieces of your soul, each fragment returning to the center. This is not an intellectual exercise, but a living process. It requires that you feel the pain of separation, that you acknowledge the places where you have abandoned yourself, and that you gently but firmly choose to return. Imagine for a moment that you are standing in a dream. In this dream, there is a house filled with many rooms, some bright and open, some locked and dark. Each room holds a part of you, a memory, an archetype, a symbol of your potential. But over the years, others have entered this house and claimed certain rooms as their own. They have told you, this is who you must be. This is where you belong. And so you have lived in only a small corner of your own house, thinking it is all you deserve. The journey to reclaim your power is the journey of walking through that house, unlocking every door, facing whatever shadows lurk within, and saying, this is my home. I belong here. I will no longer give you the keys. Control is always about keys, about access to your inner world. Those who manipulate are trying to get into your house, to rearrange your furniture, to convince you that you do not own your own space, but you are the keeper of the keys. The moment you realize this, their control becomes a mirage. It may still appear to exist in the outer world, but internally you are free. And when you are free inside, no external power can truly dominate you. Freedom, however, is not without cost. It requires courage to face the loneliness that comes when you step outside the expectations of others. It requires the willingness to be misunderstood, to be called selfish or rebellious because you refuse to surrender your truth. This is the test of individuation, the process of becoming whole. Individuation is not about becoming who society wants you to be. It is about becoming who you truly are in relation to the self, the divine center of your being. And this path will often lead you into conflict with those who prefer comfort over truth. They may try to control you because they do not understand your journey. They may even hate you for it. But their hatred is not truly about you. It is about their own fear of awakening. When I speak of keeping your power, I do not mean a superficial power based on dominance or status. I mean the deeper power of alignment with the self, the archetypal source of life and meaning, this power does not need to prove itself. It is not concerned with winning or losing, because it knows that true authority comes from within. The self is like an ancient king seated at the center of your soul's kingdom, radiating strength and wisdom. When you are in touch with the center, no manipulation can reach you, because you are rooted in something eternal. Yet, how do you stay connected to this self? How do you remain aware when the world is full of noise and distraction? The answer lies in stillness, in dreams, in the willingness to turn inward and listen to the whispers of the unconscious. Dreams are not just random images. They are messages from the self guiding you toward wholeness. If you pay attention, you will notice that your dreams often reveal where you have lost your power. They show you the figures that dominate you, the inner tyrant, the inner critic, the shadow you have yet to face. By dialoguing with these dream images, by integrating their messages, you begin to reclaim the power that was trapped in them. Consider, for example, a dream of being chased. Perhaps you see a dark figure pursuing you through endless corridors. At first, you think it is an external enemy. But if you stop running and turn to face it, you may discover that it is a part of yourself, a forgotten instinct, a raw emotion, an energy you have repressed. By acknowledging it, by saying, I see you, I am not afraid of you, you transform the energy from an enemy into an ally. This is how you keep your power, by refusing to let the disowned parts of yourself be used against you. To keep your power, you must understand that the greatest battles are never fought outside of you, but within the inner landscape of your soul. The forces that seek to control you are amplified by your own unconscious patterns, by the wounds and complexes that remain unresolved. If you do not know your shadow, it will rule you through others. It will appear as the voice of a manipulative partner, the judgment of society, the authority of a system that tells you who you are allowed to be. Yet, when you turn to meet your shadow, when you allow yourself to see the anger, the fear, the yearning that lies beneath your masks, you take back what was yours all along. The shadow ceases to be a monster. Once it is acknowledged as a part of you, then no one can use it to chain you. This is why you must dare to be intimate with your own darkness, not to live in it, not to drown in despair, but to embrace it as the other half of your wholeness. Power does not come from pretending to be only light. It comes from knowing you are both light and dark, divine and mortal, fragile and eternal. When you see your own complexity clearly, the attempts of others to control you will seem almost naive. They will try to provoke fear, but you have already walked through your inner night. They will try to shame you, but you have already faced the parts of yourself that once felt unworthy and found them worthy of love. They will try to silence you, but you have already heard the voice of the self, and it speaks louder than their judgment. Control thrives on unconscious agreements. Ask yourself, where have you agreed, without realizing it, to give up your freedom? Where have you accepted a role that does not belong to you because you feared standing alone? The archetype of the victim whispers that you must be rescued, that you are powerless without someone else's approval. The archetype of the servant tells you that you must please others to survive. These archetypes are not your enemies, they are ancient patterns of survival embedded in the collective psyche. But if you remain unconscious of them, they will hold you hostage. The way to free yourself is to see them, to acknowledge their presence, and to choose differently. You are not a victim. You are a creator. You are not a servant to other people's desires. You are a servant of the deeper truth that flows through your life. When I look at the modern world, I see a crisis of power, not the power of weapons or wealth, but the inner power that comes from authenticity. People have forgotten how to listen to their own soul. They are bombarded with images, with demands, with voices telling them who they should be. It is as if we live in a hall of mirrors, constantly reflecting each other's projections, yet unable to find the center. But the way to keep your power is to step out of that hole, to stop seeking your reflection in other people's eyes. Look inward instead. Ask yourself, who am I when no one is watching? Who am I when all the masks are removed? This is where your power waits, quiet and unshaken. To truly hold your power, you must also learn the art of boundaries. A boundary is not a wall to keep people out. It is a sacred line that defines where your energy begins and where it ends. Those who seek to control you will always test these boundaries. They will push, they will guilt, they will manipulate to see how far they can go. But the boundary is not for them, it is for you. It is a declaration that says, this is my soul. This is my truth. You may not enter unless I invite you. Boundaries are not aggressive. They are acts of love towards yourself and toward others, because they create clarity. Without boundaries, you become a shapeless echo of other people's desires. With boundaries, you stand as a living being, rooted like a tree that knows its own soil. Yet boundaries are not only external, they are also internal. How often do you allow your own mind to bully you, to whisper that you are not enough? How often do you let the inner critic, that harsh archetype, take the throne of your consciousness to keep your power? You must learn to set boundaries within your own psyche. You must recognize the voices that do not belong to your true self, the voices of fear, of shame, of inherited beliefs, and tell them, you may not rule me any longer. This is not about suppressing these voices, but about listening to them with compassion, then gently taking back the throne. Dreams, again, will help you with this. Your dreams often reveal the internal dynamics of power and control. Perhaps you dream of being trapped, of being unable to speak, of being watched. These are not random. They are mirrors of the places where you feel powerless in waking life. But dreams also offer solutions. They show you the forgotten tools of your psyche, symbols of strength, of wisdom, of freedom. A dream of finding a key, of opening a door, of discovering a hidden room is the soul's way of telling you that power is returning. If you pay attention, these dreams will teach you more than any authority figure ever could. You see, keeping your power is not about constant resistance. It is not about living in defiance of others. that would still mean you are defining yourself by their existence. True power is quiet. It simply is. It is the confidence that you do not need to prove anything, that you do not need to fight to exist. It is the presence that comes from being deeply rooted in your own truth. And when you live from that center, people sense it. They may try to control you, but something in them knows it will not work. You are like a mountain, silent, immovable, watching the storms pass without fear. The journey to this state is not easy. It requires the courage to face your own illusions. One of the greatest illusions is that control comes from outside. In reality, all control begins within. If you are not aware of your own impulses, your own complexes, you will project them onto others and feel as if they are controlling you. For example, if you repress your anger, you may find yourself constantly controlled by people who seem aggressive. But what is truly happening is that your own unclaimed anger is being mirrored back to you. The moment you acknowledge and integrate that anger, allowing it to exist as healthy assertiveness, you will notice that those external aggressors lose their grip. Keeping your power then is a process of radical honesty with yourself. You must ask again and again, where have I given my energy away? Where have I let fear decide my choices? Where have I silenced my voice because I believed it would not be accepted? These questions are not meant to make you feel guilty. They are invitations to return home. Each time you answer them honestly, you bring back a piece of your soul. You become fuller, stronger, less dependent on the opinions of others. There is also the question of love. Love is often the battlefield where power is lost or won. We give away our power when we believe that love must be earned through submission. When we fear that being authentic will make us unlovable, but love, in its true form, is not about control. It does not demand that you shrink yourself to be accepted. It does not ask you to silence your truth. True love supports your power. It celebrates your wholeness. If someone tries to control you in the name of love, it is not love, but fear disguised as affection. You must be able to tell the difference. This requires that you first love yourself fully, unconditionally, without apology. Only then can you recognize real love when it comes, and only then will you refuse to settle for chains. You may wonder, how do I reach this state? How do I become immune to control? The answer is not found in quick solutions. It is a lifelong dialogue with the self. You must be willing to go inward, to meet the archetypes that shape your psyche. You must sit with the wise old man or woman within the inner sage who whispers truths when you are quiet. You must face the warrior archetype, not as violence, but as the energy of courage that protects your boundaries. You must meet the lover archetype, who reminds you that life is sacred and worth living fully. These archetypes are not fantasies. They are living realities within the unconscious. The more you engage with them, the more you become whole, and the less vulnerable you are to external manipulation. To remain in your power, you must recognize that control is often subtle. It does not always come in the form of overt dominance. More often, it hides in the small compromises. You make the unspoken agreements you accept to avoid conflict or discomfort. Someone says something that diminishes your worth, and you do not respond because you fear being seen as difficult. A relationship drains your energy, but you stay because leaving feels too frightening. Each of these moments is like a tiny thread, weaving a web that slowly binds you. To cut these threads, you must be willing to see them for what they are, a denial of your own inner authority. Awareness is the first act of liberation. But awareness alone is not enough. It must be paired with action, even small actions that affirm your inner strength. When you speak your truth, even if your voice trembles, you are reclaiming a piece of your power. When you set a boundary and hold it, even when others push back, you are building a fortress of authenticity around your soul. These acts are not about aggression, they are about alignment. You are simply aligning your outer life with the truth that already lives within you. I often think of the image of the hero's journey, which is not just a story but a psychological map. The hero must leave the known world, descend into the unknown, face trials, and confront the dragon, a symbol of the collective fears and shadow elements that seek to control us. This dragon is not truly an external force. It is the sum of everything we have yet to face within ourselves. When we confront it, when we look it in the eyes without running, it transforms. Its terrifying power dissolves because its power was always drawn from our own fear. This is how you keep your power, by facing your inner dragons instead of letting others wield them against you. Consider the archetype of the trickster. The trickster thrives on confusion, on turning reality upside down. In the world of human relationships, this archetype often manifests as manipulation, as gaslighting, as the subtle twisting of truth to make you doubt your own perception. When you are unaware of this, the trickster can steal your clarity and leave you feeling powerless. But once you recognize the game, once you see that the confusion is not a reflection of your own inadequacy, but a deliberate distortion, you take back your power. You step outside the game. You remember that the only true authority is your connection to your inner self, not the shifting stories others tell you. There is a sacred stillness at the center of every soul, a place untouched by the noise of the world. To keep your power, you must learn to dwell in that stillness, to return to it when the world becomes too loud. Meditation, reflection, even walking alone in nature can help you touch this center. It is not about escaping life, but about remembering who you are beyond all roles, beyond all masks. When you are rooted in this place, you do not need to fight for power. You simply are power because you are aligned with the eternal rhythms of the psyche, with the self that holds both the personal and the collective unconscious in harmony. Yet this path is not without challenges. There will be times when you feel as if your power has been stolen, when someone's words or actions leave you shaken. In those moments, it is tempting to react, to lash out, to try to seize control. But true power does not arise from reaction, it arises from response, from the calm awareness that you are not defined by what others do to you. When someone tries to belittle you, they are revealing their own shadow, not your truth. When someone attempts to control you, they are acting from their own fear of losing control. If you can see this, if you can hold your center while recognizing their fear, you remain untouchable. You are not playing their game, and therefore they cannot win. The unconscious is like a vast ocean, and most people live only on its surface, carried by currents. They do not understand those who seek to control you are often those who have never dared to dive beneath the waves. They fear what lies below the archetypes, the symbols, the wild and untamed energies of the soul. But you, if you wish to keep your power, must be willing to dive. You must swim into the depths and learn the language of the unconscious. When you know your own depth, no one can use them against you. Dreams, again, are keys to these depths. Imagine a dream where you are holding a torch in a dark cave. The cave is your unconscious, and the torch is your awareness. At first, you see only shadows flickering on the walls. But as you move deeper, the torchlight reveals treasures, hidden talents, forgotten memories, sacred truths about who you are. These treasures are your power. They were never lost, only buried. The more you explore this cave, the less afraid you are of the dark. And when others try to scare you with their shadows, you simply smile because you have already walked through the night. In relationships, especially, the dynamics of power can be subtle and complex. We often give our power away in the name of love, mistaking control for care, mistaking dependence for intimacy. But true connection does not diminish you. It amplifies you. It allows you to be fully yourself while also holding space for the other to be fully themselves. If you feel smaller in someone's presence, if you feel as though your voice must be silenced or your truth must be hidden, then that relationship is asking for your power in exchange for acceptance. You must decide if that is a price you are willing to pay. Often, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to step away from those who cannot honor your wholeness. The archetype of the shadow is especially powerful in this context. We project our shadow onto others, seeing in them the qualities we refuse to acknowledge in ourselves. When someone tries to control you, it may be that they are projecting their own inner chaos onto you. But it is equally possible that you are projecting your own unclaimed strength onto them, imagining that they hold power over you when, in fact, they only hold the power you have not yet owned. By reclaiming these projections, by saying, that strength, that authority, that clarity I see in them, it is also within me. You take back what was always yours. One of the greatest illusions of control is the belief that someone else knows better than you what is true for your life. Parents, teachers, leaders, even partners may claim to have the answers, and sometimes their guidance is wise. But if you abandon your own inner voice in favor of theirs, you are surrendering the very essence of your power. Your life is a unique expression of the self, and only you can truly hear its call. This does not mean you reject all guidance or wisdom from others. It means you weigh it against the voice within, and you choose from a place of alignment rather than fear. So keep your power you must also face the fear of solitude. Many people stay in situations of control because they are afraid of being alone. But solitude is not emptiness. It is the space where you can hear the whispers of your own soul. It is where you remember that you are enough, even without the validation of others. When you embrace solitude, you become less susceptible to manipulation because you are no longer desperate for someone else's approval or company. You stand on your own ground, unshaken. There is a certain magic that happens when you begin to live from your center rather than from the expectations of others. The world may not change immediately, but your perception shifts where once you saw walls, you now see open pathways where once you felt trapped by the opinions of others, you now feel an almost serene detachment, as if their voices are distant echoes rather than commands. This is the essence of keeping your power, realizing that no one can define you unless you allow them to. Their judgments are like passing clouds. But the sky of your being remains vast and untouched. To live this way requires courage, for the collective mind is strong. Society thrives on conformity, on everyone playing their part, without question. When you step outside these unspoken rules, you may feel the pressure of disapproval. People may accuse you of arrogance or rebellion simply because you refuse to live by their scripts. But this is the price of authenticity. If you want to hold your power, you must be willing to endure the discomfort of standing apart, at least for a time, over and over. You must choose to trust your inner compass. Even when the external map is unclear, do not misunderstand me. Keeping your power does not mean rejecting all relationships or all forms of connection. In fact, true power allows you to connect more deeply because you are not entangled in games of control or dependency. When you know your own center, you can meet others from a place of freedom rather than fear. You do not need them to complete you, to validate you, or to define you. You can love them as they are, without trying to mold them into something that meets your expectations. And this kind of love, grounded in freedom, is perhaps the most powerful force of all. The self, the inner divine center, is like a well of clear water that never runs dry. But to drink from it, you must turn inward. You must be willing to sit in silence, to listen to the subtle movements of your soul. The world will always try to pull you outward toward distraction, toward noise, toward the endless cycle of seeking approval. Yet the answers you seek, the power you crave, are always found in the inward gaze. Each time you return to this well, you are renewed. You remember that you are not just a personality, not just a collection of roles and labels, but a living symbol of the greater life that flows through all beings. I often speak of symbols because they are the language of the unconscious. A symbol is not just an image, it is a doorway to a deeper truth. When you dream of a mountain, for example, it is not just a mountain, it is an invitation to climb, to rise above your limitations, to see the world from a higher perspective. When you dream of water, It may be the unconscious itself, calling you to dive deeper, to cleanse and renew yourself. These symbols are not given by the outside world, but arise from the depths of your own being. To pay attention to them is to remember your own power, for they are messages from the self guiding you back to wholeness. One of the most profound realizations you can have is that your power does not depend on external circumstances. Even if the world turns against you, even if you are misunderstood, rejected, or abandoned, you still carry within you the spark of life that cannot be extinguished. This spark is not dependent on success, on recognition, on approval. It simply is. When you touch this inner fire, you realize that nothing and no one can truly take anything from you. They can take your possessions, your titles, even your reputation, but they cannot take your essence. And when you live from this essence, you are free, but freedom is often misunderstood. It is not the absence of all constraints. Rather, it is the ability to choose consciously to align your actions with your inner truth, rather than with fear or compulsion. True freedom arises when you are no longer enslaved by the unconscious drives that once ruled you. You are no longer seeking to please everyone, to avoid conflict at any cost, to live up to impossible standards. You become less concerned with being liked and more concerned with being real. And in this realness, in this naked authenticity, lies an extraordinary power. Many people fear this path because it requires them to face the possibility of rejection. But rejection is not the end of the world. It is simply a sign that you are no longer fitting into someone else's mold. And while this can be painful, it is also liberating. Each rejection can be a reminder that you are walking your own path, that you are choosing your own destiny rather than following the one others have written for you. And as you continue, you will find that the people who truly belong in your life will resonate with your authenticity. They will not ask you to give up your power in order to be loved. The archetype of the warrior is essential here, not as violence or aggression, but as the courage to stand firm in your truth. The warrior knows when to speak and when to remain silent, when to yield and when to hold the line. This inner warrior is not about domination, but about integrity. It is the part of you that says, I will not abandon myself, no matter what. When you call upon this archetype, you are not seeking to overpower others, but to protect the sacred ground of your own soul. And yet, power without compassion can become harsh, just as compassion without power can become weak. The balance lies in integrating both. You must learn to hold your boundaries firmly while still remaining open to love, to understanding, to the recognition that everyone is fighting their own battles. Those who seek to control you are often doing so out of fear of losing control over their own lives, fear of their own shadows. When you see this, you can respond with compassion without giving away your power. You can say no without hatred. You can walk away without bitterness, because you understand that their struggle is not yours to carry. In the end, keeping your power is not about building a fortress around yourself, but about becoming so whole that no external force can shake you. It is about walking through the world with the quiet strength of someone who knows who they are. And this knowing does not come from ego, but from a deep connection to the self, to the timeless center of the psyche that holds all opposites in harmony. When you live from this place, you do not need to defend yourself constantly, because you are no longer at war with yourself. Imagine for a moment that you are standing in the middle of a vast field. The sky above you is infinite. The earth beneath you is steady. In this moment, you feel no need to prove anything, no need to run from anything. You are simply present, aware of your own being. This presence is your power. It is not flashy or dramatic, but it is unshakable. It does not depend on who is watching or what they think of you. It simply exists, like the sun shining, regardless of whether anyone looks up. There is a quiet revolution that takes place inside you when you stop living for the gaze of others and begin living for the truth of your own soul. This revolution does not require dramatic gestures or violent defiance. It is the subtle yet profound act of saying yes to your authentic self and no to the forces that would diminish you. Every time you honor your inner voice, every time you follow the whisper of your own intuition, you are keeping your power, and this power is not something you need to flaunt or defend. It is like the deep roots of a tree, invisible yet unshakable, drawing nourishment from the unseen depths of the earth. To keep your power, you must also learn to let go. This may sound paradoxical, for we often equate power with control. But true power arises not from controlling life, but from aligning with its deeper rhythms. There is an intelligence within the unconscious, a wisdom that surpasses the conscious mind. When you learn to trust this wisdom, you stop clinging to what is no longer meant for you. You stop trying to force situations or people to be what they are not. This trust allows you to stand in your power even when life is uncertain, even when the path ahead is not clear. Think of water for a moment. Water does not resist the shape of the vessel it flows into, yet it wears down mountains over time. It is soft and yielding, yet its power is immense. This is the kind of power that cannot be taken from you, because it is not based on rigidity or dominance. It is based on presence, on flow, on the quiet confidence of knowing that nothing can stop what is meant to be. When you embody this kind of power, you are no longer shaken by the attempts of others to control you. Their efforts become like stones thrown into a river, creating ripples but never altering the current's course. In the realm of dreams and symbols, this state of power is often represented by the image of light. Light does not fight the darkness, it simply shines, and the darkness is no more. When you are connected to the self, you are like that light, radiant, steady, unbothered by the shadows around you. People may try to cast their projections onto you, but they cannot penetrate the core of your being. You see their projections for what they are, echoes of their own unhealed parts, and you choose not to take them personally. This is one of the greatest signs that you are living in your power, when you no longer take the actions of others as reflections of your own worth. We live in a world where manipulation often masquerades as truth. Media authority figures, even well-meaning loved ones, can project their fears and biases onto you. But when you stand in your power, you learn to discern. You develop an inner compass that tells you when something resonates with your soul and when it does not. This compass is not loud. It speaks in quiet intuitions, in the subtle feeling of expansion or contraction in your body. The more you listen, the clearer it becomes. And with this clarity, you are far less likely to be swayed by external attempts to control your thoughts or actions. There is also the question of forgiveness. Forgiveness is not about condoning the actions of those who have tried to control or harm you. It is about releasing the grip they have on your energy. When you hold on to resentment, you are still giving them power, still allowing them to live rent-free in your mind. But when you forgive not for them, but for yourself, you cut the cords. You free your energy to flow where it truly belongs, into your own life, your own growth, your own becoming. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is one of the strongest acts of reclaiming your power. At the heart of all this is the journey of individuation, the process of becoming whole. This journey is not linear, nor is it easy. It requires you to face the contradictions within yourself, to integrate the parts you once rejected, to embrace both your light and your shadow. It is a path of self-discovery, of peeling back the layers of conditioning until you find the raw, unfiltered truth of who you are. And once you find this truth, you no longer need to fight for power, because you realize that you were never powerless to begin with. The only thing you were missing was awareness. Imagine that you are standing at the edge of a great forest. The path is unclear. The trees are dense and the night is approaching. This is the beginning of the journey inward. At first, you may feel fear, because the familiar landmarks of your life, the roles, the identities, the opinions of others are falling away. But as you walk deeper into the forest, you begin to notice something extraordinary. There are stars above you, guiding you. There's a fire within you, illuminating your steps, and with each step you feel a strength rising from the ground itself, as if the earth is supporting you. This is what it feels like to walk in your own power, uncertain, yes, but also deeply alive, deeply connected to something greater than yourself. And when you emerge from that forest, when you return to the world of others, you are no longer the same. People may still try to control you, but their words no longer cut so deep. You see through their games, not with anger, but with understanding. You realize that everyone, in some way, is struggling with their own loss of power, their own fear of the unconscious. And in this realization, you find a kind of compassion, not as a weakness, but as a quiet strength. For you know that true power does not need to dominate. It simply stands unshaken, like a mountain that has weathered countless storms. If there is one thing I want you to remember, it is this: your power is not given by the world, and therefore the world cannot take it away. It is a birthright of every soul, the flame that burns at the center of your being. To keep this flame alive, you must tend to it daily. You must listen to your dreams, honor your boundaries, face your shadows, and return again and again to the stillness within. Life will test you through relationships, through losses, through moments of doubt, but each test is an opportunity to strengthen that inner flame, to stand a little taller in your truth. Perhaps you're listening now and wondering, am I strong enough for this path? I will tell you, the fact that you are here seeking this knowledge is proof that you are. The self does not call the unready, it whispers to those who are prepared to awaken, to reclaim the parts of themselves they once abandoned. And though the path may be lonely at times, you are never truly alone. The archetypes walk with you. The wise old man, the warrior, the lover, the sage, they are all parts of you, waiting to be remembered. And beyond them, there is the self, the eternal center, always guiding you home. So keep walking, keep listening, keep choosing your truth over the comfort of conformity. Each time you do, you grow stronger, freer, more alive. Each time you do, you keep your power not as a weapon, but as a living flame, a testament to the soul's unyielding desire to be whole. And when you stand in this power, when you live from this deep alignment, the world around you begins to shift. You become not just an individual, but a beacon, a light that reminds others of their own forgotten strength. This, perhaps, is the highest form of power, not to control, but to inspire, not to dominate, but to awaken. And so I leave you with this: trust the journey of your own becoming. Trust that your power is already within you, waiting to be claimed. And when the world tries to control you, smile, for you know that true control can never touch the soul that has awakened to its own infinite depths.